If I have a nervous, sensitive horse, it is absolutely essential that the horse has plenty of roughage available, that it is kept busy for a long time.
A jump here, a twitch there. Some horses are more nervous than others. What are the triggers?
That horses are nervous? Perhaps they are jumpy. Sometimes too nervous, too jumpy can have very different reasons. The most obvious and natural reason is that a horse is a flight animal, and therefore the transmission of stimuli from "I see something that frightens me" to the brain, for example, works much faster than in an animal that is not a flight animal. The second reason could be ancestry. There are proven lines that are simply much more jumpy, much more nervous, usually also in combination with a thoroughbred. It may have something to do with age. Young horses, inexperienced horses, naturally no less, can simply be much more jumpy. If you now look at the feeding, for example, horses can become stressed if they have very little roughage available and their stomachs are often empty. That stresses horses out immensely. If the horses have little to do, which is also related to roughage, they spend a lot of time eating, which is the horse's natural behavior, then they are simply happier and less nervous. That the horse can move freely, not just under the rider, that they also have a certain stimulating environment, so that they don't just stand in their box without seeing anything, but also get out. This also relaxes horses immensely, and you shouldn't ignore the owner either, because a nervous owner will always have a nervous horse, because the nervousness of the person is simply transferred to the horse. Another reason why horses can be nervous is, of course, that they have had bad experiences, that they have been traumatized in some way, and are therefore now simply much more sensitive to their environment. However, it can also be a lack of nutrients such as L-tryptophan. This is a very important amino acid that is involved in the formation of serotonin, a calming mechanism in the body, or a magnesium deficiency, because magnesium also has an effect on stimulus conduction. If magnesium is lacking, the conduction of stimuli simply works even faster than it already does.
How can you support a nervous horse through targeted feeding?
When feeding, you can make sure that the horse simply has enough roughage available. It is important to provide the horse with roughage throughout the day as an activity, and then of course, you can also help very nervous horses by using supplementary feed. The body's own protective mechanisms against stress, or the protective mechanisms for hypersensitivity, can simply be better utilized.
Vor Stress oder auch die Schutzmechanismen für Hypersensibilität einfach besser nutzen kann.
Which additives are possible?
The first additive to mention is magnesium, because magnesium simply slows down the transmission of stimuli from what is seen, heard, and felt to the brain, so that the stimulus does not travel as quickly. Then you can use natural herbal substances such as hops. Passion flower or lemon balm can have a similar effect to magnesium or can be added to it. The stimulus conduction is simply interrupted, or you can work with L-tryptophan.
Reizleitung einfach unterbrochen oder man arbeitet mit L-Tryptophan.
L-tryptophan is involved in the production of serotonin. Yes, it is a natural sedative that is produced naturally in the body, and with L-tryptophan, the horse can simply synthesize it better and then simply become a little calmer overall. With the supplementary feed, it is very important that we do not want to sedate or calm the horse in an unnatural way, but rather try to give the horse the substances to calm itself naturally with a supplementary feed. In other words, you can simply reinforce and activate the natural pathways that the horse already has within itself. But of course, you don't want a sedative, a sedative effect, because that would simply be relevant to animal welfare.
What about oats for nervous horses?
Feeding oats in combination with nervous horses can be questioned because oats simply provide energy much more quickly. If I have a horse that is nervous, it usually doesn't need the energy from the oats. In other words, this forward energy that the oats provide simply through the quickly available carbohydrates, but rather the energy that is slowly available, which comes from fats and oils, or, for example, from barley, is a slowly available energy.
Auch aus Gerste kommt eine langsam verfügbare Energie.
Why is it so important to support the process of relaxation?
If my horse is constantly under tension and stress and is just so nervous, it can of course lead to health problems such as stomach ulcers. The stomach is very, very sensitive when it comes to stress. It can generally lead to health problems because the immune system simply doesn't function properly. In a horse that is under constant stress, because you have to imagine that this stress, which the horse is constantly under, puts all of the cells in the body on alert, which often leads to hyperacidity.
Dadurch werden die oft auch übersäuert.
This is called oxidative stress. And then they simply have no more energy or time for their real work. And that's why it will always be much more difficult for a horse that simply has such extreme basic tension, such as basic nervousness, to build muscle, for example, because the muscles never have a phase of relaxation that they need to gain muscle mass.
Muskelmasse zuzulegen.
Here is an example of a suitable plan.
I have brought along a feeding plan as a guide on how to feed an adult warm-blood horse weighing about 500 kilos when he is very nervous. We assume that the horse cannot have hay available all day. That's why I have rationed the amount of hay to 3 meals. We start in the morning with 2.5 kilos of hay, ideally fed from the concentrate, which the stomach simply has a roughage base, and then feed half a kilo of the very high-quality concentrate with moderate energy. Moderate energy means that you have around 8 megajoules per kilogram. This is usually in the range of oat-free all-around muesli, which I would say is not designed for sport horses. If I had a sport horse, I would also use half a kilo of concentrated feed, but then I would use a sport feed that gets its energy from fats and oils, and not from grain, for example.
Das aber die Energie aus Fetten und Ölen holt und nicht aus Getreide zum Beispiel.
And then, depending on whether the concentrate is vitaminized and mineralized, do I have to feed the mineral feed accordingly or not? As I said, it depends on the concentrate, and then you can add a supplement for nervous horses in the morning, either a combination of magnesium or L-tryptophan. This is a common combination, or a combination of magnesium and lemon balm, for example, is also a very common preparation. At lunchtime, the horse can then get 2.5 kilos of hay and half a kilo of concentrated feed. There is no need for mineral feed because minerals and supplements should ideally be divided into 2 meals, one in the morning and one in the evening. In the evening, the horse should be given the largest meal of hay. This is easy to eat overnight. We now have 6 kilos and half a kilo of concentrated feed. If you feed a very high-quality concentrate that is highly digested, where the ingredients can simply be metabolized well, then 1.5 kilos of concentrate is usually enough to completely supply a horse. This is also a bit of a guideline for distinguishing a high-quality concentrate for a not-so-quality one. The lower the daily input, the higher the quality of the concentrate.
And another tip besides feeding.
If I want to do something new with my horse, for example, go to a show, then I should do it much more slowly and in a more planned way with a nervous horse than with a horse that is not so nervous. This means simply laying the foundations at home, practicing loading. Just put the horse on the trailer, unload it again, then put it on the trailer, ride around, then have a look at the showground. You can go there 3 to 4 times before the show. Just do it more slowly than with a horse that is calmer and more relaxed on its own, because then you simply have long-term success and don't stress the horse so much.
Strength lies in tranquility. This also applies to horses, their willingness to perform, and their well-being. You have a nervous horse and would like to take it to a show. Then I have 5 tips for you. Firstly, preparation is everything. Have everything prepared and ready the day before so that all you have to do is ride off. Secondly, practice all the requirements well before the competition so that it is simply routine for your horse to perform them. Thirdly, It is best to show your horse the arena before the competition, without a competition, so that it can get used to it. Fourthly, set off in good time on the day of the show so that you don't get into any stressful situations in the first place. And fifthly, and very importantly, stay calm yourself so that you don't transfer the stress you are under to your horse.